This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring defensive line coach and director of player development, Ramal Faunteroy. Coach Faunteroy highlights ways to continue to grow as a coach, shares his experience leading FCA meetings, and discusses the future of player development at the collegiate level. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Faunteroy.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us today, man. How are you?
Doing good. A pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's dive right on in. You spent 10 years at the collegiate ranks, coached at various universities, but you kind of had a different start to getting into this to the coaching ranks. You started at the high school level. Just wanted to ask you a little bit about how you got into coaching, number one, at the high school level, and then what was a part of that decision making that led you down the collegiate route, and how did that opportunity present itself?
Well, actually, I would say that I kind of got a late start. I was one of the guys, started playing football at the age of 6, all the way through high school and college. Chased the professional dream. Had a chance to play a couple of years of Arena 2 football with the Manchester Wolves up in New Hampshire. But when I was playing, I knew I wanted to do something with sports. I wanted to do something with kids, but I wasn't one of those players that said, hey, I want to be a coach.
Right.
During my time at Arena 2, after my first season, I had to get an all-season job, and I got a recreation specialist job at Harpersburg Job Corps. 250 kids living on site, troubled teams, from West Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Philly, Baltimore area. And my first week on the job, I got there on like a Tuesday, and they said, hey, we know you got you played a little bit of football. We got a competitive flag football team, but we don't have a coach in the first game Saturday. So self-consciously, I just, put up some signs who want to play. Guys came out and, put together, I think I ran 2 or 3 coverages, about 4 formations on offense. And what had happened was, and I didn't even realize it, all the coaches that I had been around throughout my playing career, it came back to me. Right. And it was like, okay, so we did that. And, my first year, we went 9-1 on the regular season. They had a playoffs. Were held up in Philadelphia. We lost in the championship game, but I would say that was kind of my official intro, and it wasn't about the wins, right? And it was about the relationships, right? And I saw these different dudes that was on the team, and I looked at them like, dang, if they had a different upbringing, or if they had a different opportunity, they could have played high school ball, or they would have had a chance to play collegiate ball at different levels. So when I went back, played arena football, my second year. And then when I was done, I said, you know what? I want to coach. So at this time I was married and I was living in the Panhandle. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised. But I was married for a year and a half now. And I really just started knocking on every door right there in the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. Even though I had played at Shepherd University, that's right there as well. I wasn't familiar with the high school coaches or the school. So I just started knocking on all the doors, and I just wanted to volunteer. And I think everybody said they was full or they didn't have a spot for help. And it just so happened I got to Hedgesville High School. It was in the summer. I think it was July, and they had just hired a new head coach. And I caught the principal, the AD, and the head coach, and they interviewed me on the spot. And I wound up getting the job in fall 2008 was my first year coaching.
Man, that's an awesome story. Really, the fact that you just kind of took a leap of faith on that job, and not even a leap of faith. You just I guess felt that calling to take that flag league, and then you fell in love with it. Fell in love with the relationships and the success that you had,
sir.
Man. That's great. Now you knock on all the doors, you get a bunch of no's, but you do get that one yes. So you spend a little time at the high school level. Then quickly transition to college. What was that transition like? What was the motivation to maybe take that hop to the collegiate level?
Well, I was one of the guys, like I said, my last year playing on the field was fall 2004 at Shepherd University. And when I was playing, I didn't finish my undergrad degree. So what hit me was during that off season of Arena, I was looking for, some different jobs. And I think I saw a recreation specialist, and it was, paying about $50,000, $60,000 a year. And they said, I only could interview if I had my bachelor's degree. And my mom, she had stayed on me that whole time. She never cared about the scores or the wins or the loss. She was like, when you going to finish your degree? And it hit home. I'm married. I got my first son on the way. So I took it upon myself that fall 2008. I'm coaching high school, and I went back to Shepherd University on my own to finish up my bachelor's degree. And I was also working a part-time job on top of those duties. So as I'm going back to classes during the day, I'm going to practice in the evenings at the high school, and the same head coach and both coordinators were still at Shepherd University. So they were seeing me throughout the day. They saw that I was done, chasing the, professional level as far as playing arena. And we were engaged in conversations throughout that season. And after that fall 2008 season, in my mind, I was like, you know what, I'm about to help turn Hedgesville into a powerhouse, but they gave me the opportunity to come back to my alma mater.
Right.
And they said, hey, won't you come back and coach? And I started January 2009 at the same school that I played at.
Man, what a great opportunity to kind of go back to where it all started. And that's great that you took advantage of that. Now, we probably had a string of people that's been on the podcast, and I found myself asking the question about coaching multiple positions. We had a few guys that have coached receiver and cornerback, and there's some synergy there. And honestly, I was really, really intrigued with the fact that your whole career you've been a defensive line coach, and you've done some stuff outside the off the field that I want to dive into, but you've been a D-line coach through and through. What are some of the advantages? We've talked about the advantages of coaching multiple positions, but what's the advantages of being just a vet at that one position? And, in year 9, year 10, how do you continue to develop professionally? When you probably know so much about that position, how do you continue to grow?
Just really being humble and understanding that, learning never stops. And, that's a position that I had a chance to play in college, and getting into it, really understanding and believing that that's the first line of defense, and I've been open to opportunities. So when Shepherd said, hey, do you want to come coach? The opportunity was on the defensive line. And I kind of took that and ran with it. And I was fortunate enough to be with a program that had a lot of stability. So it wasn't a lot of coaches coming in and out, those first 7 years of coaching. So it was like, hey, this is where I'm at, and I need to be where I'm at and continue to grow and taking pride in that. And, it really becomes, like I said, the relationships, understanding that D-line, we usually going to have anywhere from 15 to 20 guys.
Right.
We was a 4-man front, got 4 guys in the game, understanding that even if you can't, even if you do have 4 All-Americans, them guys can't do it by themselves. So, and then being at the D2 level, right, you talk about multiple scholarship packages and walk-ons and things of that nature, always believing in, hey, whenever we do start camp or start that season, we have who we have. So it's the idea of making the bad players good, the good players great, and making the great players exceptional too. So you kind of put it on the field and you say, okay, this is where we at, this is what we look at, and trying to help that guy reach his full potential over the course of 3, 4, sometimes 5 years. And looking around, who some of the other defensive line coaches, some of the other programs, just doing some special things, where they got their guys playing hard. And I think sometimes D-line in the trenches, it can kind of get downplayed that, hey, just line it up. And just come off the ball. And I take a lot of pride in, breaking every phase of the game down and trying to be a real technician, with that position. And like I said, we've had some great years. When I was at Shepherd, we was the, number 1 rush defense in the country, 4 out of those 7 years. So that standard continued to grow each year, and it never settled. So if the guy was a 2.0, let's shoot for a 2.2. We getting your bachelor's degree, let's try to get that master's. If we was giving up 50 yards rushing the game, let's shoot for 49, 48. So always setting goals, always setting standards, and trying to break down barriers in all phases.
Coach, that's great. That holistic approach to developing those players on and off the field and keeping them goal oriented and not being satisfied. Talking about the defensive line role, right? I mentioned earlier that you also spent some time with some off the field roles. Now, I've once again had a lot of coaches on this podcast over the years, and film guys, a receiver coach and video coordinator, running backs coach and equipment guy. I've had a lot of that. Now, one combination I haven't had at this point, which I'm actually surprised, is you had the opportunity to be the team chaplain as well as the FCA advisor there while you were at Shepherd University. What a unique opportunity, number one. Could you talk to us a little bit about, what you did in that role? And number two, basically, where you maybe got some of the ideas, knowing that a lot of coaches don't have that role at many universities.
you talk about professional development as a staff, right? So we end the season, and I believe it started going to the convention. I was always one of the guys make sure that I had a chance to, get up early. That first late night, go to those FCA meetings in the evenings,
right?
And in the mornings. I believe it was Chet Williams that I had a chance to, get his book and see some of the different things that he was doing. I believe it was at Georgia Tech with the team chaplain there. If I'm wrong, I apologize about that on the actual school. And we were just always thinking as a staff, like I said, Monty Cater has since retired. He was my head coach. Ernie McCook is the head coach now. He was the assistant head coach. I can vividly remember meetings where, okay, what else can we do for the program? What else can we do for the players? But we knew that was a sensitive position on who we were going to bring in. And coach was kind of real nervous about getting the right guy around our guys in that role. And then one day we was like, man, who we going to get? Who do we know in the area? Former players, alumni. And the coaches just was like, well, won't you do it? And I looked around and I never thought about myself doing it. So once again, another opportunity that I said, you know what, let me attack this opportunity. So, and really what it became was, like I said, road games. It was all optional. So road games and home games, just giving the guys the opportunity and coaches as well to be able to, spread the gospel, talk about the word and just fellowship in that standpoint, So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Adam Coles out of Potomac High School in PG County. Like, we had a guy that I had a chance to recruit who was an ordained minister coming in. So he kind of took the lead with bringing FCA to Shepherd University. And then some of those first meetings, they had 2-3 student athletes and normal students in those meetings on Wednesday nights. And then they approached me and said, hey, coach, you're doing the team chaplain part. Can you be the FCA advisor for the university? We had another female basketball coach who was handling that, and she had left. And then we ran with it as a group, and as a unit. And that 2 or 3 in every Wednesday night turned into 40 or 50, them last couple of years. So that's just something that I had a chance to learn and grow. Like I said, as coaches, we always say, hey, we teaching them, but we learning, from our players as well.
Man, that kind of gives me some goosebumps, man. I remember my time as a coach going to FCA meetings, and I coached receivers majority of my career, and not until I got to be the special teams coordinator did I get the chance to know that defensive line guy that I don't spend much time with. It's just the nature of the game. You spend a lot of time with your group and your unit, but never really that position on the other side of the ball. It's a couple positions that you just don't have that interaction with. And as I would go to those FCA meetings, it was just my opportunity to talk to the walk-on guy that plays defensive line that I had never really had the chance to sit down and chat with, man. And you just get that exposure to so many student athletes on your roster. And it sounds like, with you stretching that thing over as being an advisor, you got exposure to student athletes all across the board, male, females, basketball, softball, whatever. How has that aided you as a coach, being able to realize those relationships are important outside just that core group of your D-line group?
I've always, been a relationship guy, just kind of taking pride in really getting to know everybody, on the team,
right.
And you get all these different windows throughout the day. And I know some school programs are set up different on how big the campus, do you have a facility in the building?
Right.
Are you crossing paths? So I know it can be different, but I just think that the D-line, especially along with the O-line, probably wide receivers, DBs, like I said, typically we're going to have the most guys on the team. But I think even as we recruit at the collegiate level, like I said, we all coach a position at the program, but we're going to recruit every position in your area. So just getting to know your position. And like I said, you don't want that to end once they get into the program, and understanding that it's always bigger than football. So when you're able to see these different guys in passing, just be able to talk to them, whether it's a wide receiver, DB, running back, and let them know that, hey, we human, we here for you. Kind of the chain of command. Yes, start with your position coach. You got the offensive coordinator and the head coach, but you have all of us as a support system, So, and that's probably one of the best feelings, like when you build them relationships. Like I said, I think I just got a text the other day, hey, coach, appreciate that. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And that's, like I said, just like our kids, if you have children, they don't always see it now, but they'll appreciate it later on down the line. And so that's just letting them know that we're here for them. And like I said, we got 100 to 130 guys on the roster. Like I said, you can't always get your position coach or the head coach. Just know you got another guy, another man that's there to talk with you, pray with you, and kind of support you through this chapter of your life.
Absolutely. Coach, you just said something that resonated with me really well. Obviously, I had to step away from the game in 2017 to take this role, which I'm super excited about being in. But I miss it like crazy. I miss being up on the boards. I miss staff meetings. I miss those kids. I miss the relationships. And oftentimes people ask, what do you miss the most? And went to bowl games and did this, done that, and really, when you get those text messages from that kid that you coached 10 years ago, that it's a Facebook request, it's a invite to a wedding, it's a thank you for stand on me, like, man, that stuff right there, that lets you know you did the thing the right, you did everything the right way, more than any rings, championships, resume material, all that kind of stuff is those simple things, man. So I'm happy you mentioned that. Now, last 3 seasons, you spent some time over at Fairmont State as a defensive line coach, director of player development. This role right here is a growing role. We're going to talk about that in a second. But how did you juggle, once again, obviously a little bit different than that FCA role that you held at Shepherd? How did you juggle defensive line, director of player development, once again, just interacting with all those student athletes, making sure that you're helping them grow off the field as well?
I think the biggest thing is, trying to be extremely engaged with the community, right? So, some of the typical things that we would do, reach out to the elementary schools, junior high schools, are there opportunities, to spend time, with your student athletes, or your regular students, right? And understanding that we were all young. Our guys that said they were in elementary or they were in high school, and there's always somebody looking up to you. So it teaches them guys that no matter what you're going through, somebody will think you're important, right? And it might just be the mom, might just be the dad. They might not think they're important at all, but when them guys get around, especially the younger kids, they smile and they ask these guys different questions, and they understand that they play a role in giving back to the community, and they are an example. So I know one of the things that was big at Fairmont State, we did the Special Olympics. That we hosted it for this whole region. So our guys get out there running relays, cheering them on, and just banding. And that's what we talk about, spending time with, going to the elementary schools, being able to read to the different kids. We had a couple of tutoring programs set up as well. So I think it works in both ways. But like I said, it's always used to try to be a mentor to somebody that's younger than you. So it was easy. The biggest thing was, like I said, making sure we within guidelines, NCAA regulations, and then just stand on top of class schedules and availability. And it's never forced, right? And I think everywhere I've been, the guys have always done a great job. Hey, we putting up a sign up list and say, hey, we got these windows, Tuesday, Thursday. Maybe it's on a Wednesday and a Friday. We would love to have guys come out. And like I say, even when guys are grudgingly, because they got to go to treatment, they got to go to study hall, they got to go to practice games, and they banged up. That's when kind of the relationship part come in too, where it's like, hey, coach, I don't really want to do it, but I got you, coach. Right. And like I said, that come back to the relationships that you're able to build with them guys. And a lot of times, it's not what we say, it's how we make each other feel. So I think whenever you can be genuine, treat these guys with respect, love, and like I said, they'll do whatever they can to try to help out.
So you had in your career, you've had two of these roles that were on and off the field, right? What advice would you give to some of these young coaches that are coming up in the game, just about gaining exposure to some of these other roles that aren't necessarily football related, or on the field related? Let me say, rather, what advice would you give to them about maybe seeking some of those type of roles out to help them grow as a coach?
I think if you got any young guy that's in it on any side, he's automatically going to be in that role just from being around the program. So I would tell the young coaches to really be yourself. It's always good to have somebody where you kind of, hey, let me do this, but hey, maybe I'm not going to do that. But be yourself, be genuine, and like I said, you do hold the responsibility. I think we always talk about it too. One of the toughest jobs are the guys that's just finishing up playing. and want to get right into it, especially if they want to get right into it with their peers at the same program. But I think they can respect you too. So just having that responsibility and the maturity to know, hey, I'm no longer a player. I'm a coach, but you still, can be yourself and relate to them guys. But there's certain standards that you got to set where, hey, you can hang out, but you can't, hang out with these guys. And now you're an example as well, regardless of your age. And like I said, I think those guys will understand because they see them, right? And they know what they're about. And I do believe anybody can change as well. So you might have some guys that you might look at as a coach coming in that, hey, this guy might not be a coach or this guy might not be a mentor. But I say whatever God has for him is for him. And I do feel like guys can change at any moment because we all got a testimony. We all got a story too. So, and then just, hey, like I said, if it's different job duties or descriptions, whenever the coach saying, hey, we got this or this going on, just say, hey, coach, can I help? And then just, whatever their duties are, whenever you can assist, that's always going to be great.
Absolutely. Now the term player development, that's something that we've done for years and years as coaches. That's just the term player development. We try to develop these young guys. I remember being a player. I'm sure you do too, going to the local elementary schools, reading books and participating in these type of deals. But that was pretty much ran by our director of football operations, or it was kind of on this staff of 10 to 12 guys, and you didn't have the multiple GAs, the multiple quality control coaches, and now director of player development and player personnel and high school relations. Now, as these positions continue to grow, and more specifically talking about that player development role, like where do you see the future of that going? Like, do what do you think is next for that position?
I mean, I think sometimes we can get, caught up with titles, but I want to say shout out to the high school coaches because they hold every role that you could think of.
Absolutely.
Anyway, right? And then as you start moving your way up, NA, IA, Division 3, Division 2, less resources. So typically you're going to have the coaches that they're doing all of these things. So now that you get the, FCS, probably high D2, major FBS, even NFL, you start, putting a guy specifically with that. But I think we all do it because whenever you're around your team, that's part of player development, right? And this can become cliche, right? We talk about developing student athletes, right? Academically. So, here goes a calendar. Let's set your schedule Monday through Sunday, right? And now we talk about blocking in class, lifting, eating. Now you got that free time. So academic player development, hey, let's manage that free time, which becomes time management. And then now, regardless of your GPA coming out of high school, whether it's a 4.0, 2.2, right on the borderline, regardless of what the test score was, we're not just talking about a 2.0 anymore, right? We understand a bachelor's degree is really, what is a bachelor's degree today in the real world? So let's start strong. Let's shoot for a 3.5, 4.0. Why, coach? Because most schools, you got to have a 3.0 to get your master's degree. Oh, I didn't know that, coach. But we talk about, once again, academic development, going to class, showing up, being responsible, communication, right? Sitting in the front of the class, no hat, hoodies, headphones. Then you talk about athletically. That's, once again, getting the proper rest, eating right, being on time, lifting, running. Make sure you're getting the treatment when you are injured, right? And then to be preventative, hey, ankle braces, tape. Make sure you're taking care of your body and doing those things. And then we start talking about socially. So, and that's where I like to really be hands-on, right? Because they know what's going on, right? So we can shy away from some of the real world issues that's going on. Even when we talk about, some of the, racism, or we can talk about some of the social injustices that's going on. Females, right? How are you talking to these young ladies on campus and in the community? Do you have a sister? Yes, no? Okay, well, that's somebody's sister. That's somebody's daughter, right? And even if you do have a female that's engaging in inappropriate activities, let's get to know her. Maybe it's a reason to that. So, and that's when you start talking about developing the full body, academic, all right, athletically, socially, right? We like to use other examples. We don't want to see nobody in a bad situation, but if such and such get locked up over here, right? Hey, let's talk about that in this meeting today. Yeah, we got to install this pressure, all right, or this new front. But hey, fellas, did y'all see what's going on? I know, hey, well, maybe you didn't when we had X, YZ get arrested for, let's say, marijuana. And then that's another big issue. Right. some states it's legalized now. So let's have the real. Guess what? In West Virginia, it's illegal. At Fairmont State, it was illegal. On campus, it's illegal. Through the NCAA, it's illegal. Well, coach, it don't. Well, guess what? It's other real scenarios that can come with that. Maybe you're not in your right state of mind. You're at the wrong house, wrong time. Where are you at? Are you alert? So, and I think so player development, right? And then you can get into finances as guys start getting out of school. You start talking about merge. So I think most coaches are doing that, but I think whenever you can have another positive reinforcement, especially as your job duties increase, I think the more the better when you get the right people around your program.
Dang, coach, that put a big smile on my face, man. If you're doing this thing for the right reasons and doing it the right way, you've been developing players the whole time. All those little life lessons, and even if you got to chop out a minute or two out of your meetings with the players to be able to discuss that's huge, man. I thanks for pointing that out. It's not that it's brand new, but the fact that we've been doing that in high school. Coaches, like you said, man, have been manning these roles, multiple roles, for years and years and years. And so major shout out to all the high school coaches out there. Coach, thanks so much for your time today, man. I sure appreciate it. If you don't mind dropping your social media, your Twitter account, so coaches can keep up with your journey, ask questions and add you, all that good stuff, that would be great.
Yes, sir. It's email is Coach Ramal, CoachRamal @gmail. And then it's Ramal Faunteroy, Ramal_Faunteroy on Twitter. That's my own social media that I have right now.
Cool, Coach. Well, we'll make sure to drop that in the show notes so coaches can easily find that as they listen to this episode, man. Thanks so much for not just hopping on with me, but what you're doing with the young people. I know you've made a positive impact just in this brief discussion I've had with you, man, and be more in the business and more in the world like you, man. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yep.